Richard Rodgers with a walk-off touchdown. Total disbelief at Ford Field.
He may go all the way to the 20 down the right side, and there's Randall Cobb to the 5, to the end zone, to the touchdown. Oh my goodness.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Green and Golden Boys, the Packers podcast for fans who are excited that training camp has begun. We are less than 6 weeks away from opening day against the Vikings. Charles, how are you? How has your offseason been?
Oh my goodness, 6 weeks. It's August 1st when we're recording this. I'm sure we'll get it up tonight, but like the difference between July 30th, 31st and August 1st is huge. Like it's all of a sudden like football season in my head. So I am excited. I'm pumped. I'm pumped for our game 6 weeks from now, but we got a lot to get to before then, don't we?
Yeah, we do. And I can't believe that the season is almost here already. It seems like, first of all, it simultaneously feels like it took forever, but it also was super fast. So excited. But yeah, to your point, we're going to be back to weekly episodes until the season begins, and then we'll start our bi-weekly episodes as well. But we've got a lot to cover today and then in the upcoming weeks, between camp, injury reports, free agent signings, things like that. But also we're going to probably do a season preview episode, because I don't think we've done one of those yet. Give our predictions, things like that. But first and foremost,
17-0, baby. That's it.
God, can
Put
you
that
imagine?
on episode. Let's go.
Go undefeated. Aaron Rodgers wins a Super Bowl and rides off into the sunset. That would be a storybook.
Series over.
And then comes back and does it again. But before we kind of talk about the players, I wanted to talk really quick about a couple of things that are happening in the front office. So I don't know if you heard, but the Packers have extended Russ Ball, director of football operations. He's the guy who kind of manages the cap and everything like that. He's a wizard, with a spreadsheet. Does a great job. GM Brian Gutekunst was also extended, and head coach Matt LaFleur. We don't, as far as this episode goes, we don't have any information to divulge as far as the length or details of those extensions. I'm really excited about all three of those extensions, but I'm really excited about the Matt LaFleur extension. What do you think, Charles? One of those in particular more exciting than the others, or what can we expect? Coming in the next couple years from this.
No, it's honestly something that I wasn't on my radar when I saw it on the notes here today. That's awesome. Like I'm excited to see that we're not changing anything up on the team. But are you surprised, right, with LaFleur in particular and Rodgers? They've just been so special for the 3 years now that they've been together. That none of it surprised me. You said that Russ Ball is a wizard with the cap. I don't know much about Russ, so I can't speak too much about it, but it's funny to me because it feels more and more that the NFL salary cap is made up. And that probably everyone feels like they have a wizard because of the rules and the things that they can do. But sure, I'm sure he's one of the better ones. But beyond that, yeah, Brian and Matt in particular, super excited with. Unfortunately, Brian's going to be measured on what happens with Rodgers and Jordan Love. But all the secondary stories that he's been a part of, Rasul Douglas, Stokes, all these guys that have just been huge helpers to this team. I think, you said it before the episode. He's been one of the best GMs in the league since he took over, 3-4 years ago now. So yeah, really excited for both, and hope as long as we keep this party together, with Rodgers at the head of it, I expect great things. So,
well, good. Yeah, I think we're getting set up for a really strong future. I think we're all really excited for that. I think most people know by now that Mark Murphy is going to be stepping down in the next, 2 or 3 years. I forget if there's a date set for that, but it'll be interesting to see who they appoint as his successor.
It's a mandatory step down too, based on age.
I think that's true. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing, and then sure enough, it is. So it was a surprise to me because I didn't know about that. But then I read one article. I'm like, oh, okay, so it makes sense that he's like 3 or 4 years away from that mandatory step down. So I guess that makes sense that he's doing that.
And maybe you know or don't, but is that set by the league or is that set by the Packers organization?
Packers organization, because as you know, I mean, it's a little different setup than the rest of the league being publicly owned team, if you will, not one singular owner. So I think that must have been set up, and now I'm kind of making it up and talking out my, but it must have been set up kind of in the bylaws of when, the kind of modern organizational group was put together for the Packers.
I mean, he is the de facto owner for all intents and purposes as far as operations and things like that go. But I just was curious if any other team has a president, or it's just the owner that acts as that.
Yeah, but so I chalk it up to the Packers having term limits, like our elected politicians, and in every other team, I got to imagine it's at the discretion of the owner, right? I mean, if Jerry Jones loves his president, I don't see why he wouldn't be able to keep him on for 20 years or whatever it would be. So I'm guessing that's another uniquely Packer rule that we have.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, again, both really excited about that. Moving on to minicamp, or I should say training camp, not minicamp. Have you seen these things that some of the players are wearing on their helmets? They're called guardian caps. They look like giant sort of igloo marshmallow type things that they put on the outside of the helmet. Have you seen that?
Yeah, they look cool, man. They look like they're like Star Wars people or something. I think it's fun and it's for the players' safety. So I think it's great. I know players are complaining about it a bit. Have you heard of anyone in particular who's been more annoyed with it than others?
Yeah, actually, in an interview the other day with Packers media, Kenny Clark literally said, "I just don't like looking at them." When he was asked about the guardian caps, which, fair, they're ugly, but I think the studies have shown that they reduce severity of impact. For these players. So, I mean, not every player has to wear them. I think right now it's only offensive line, defensive line, tight ends, and linebackers that have to wear them, at least for the remainder of camp. And I don't think they have to wear them during practice once the season begins. But, I mean, they show like anywhere from a 10 to 20% reduction in impact. So, I mean, if we can prevent head injuries before the season, that's obviously ideal.
I have two things on that. I mean, it's kind of like for the longest time I wore a half shield in hockey, and then it took one stick to the face. I'm like, okay, put it on a full shield. Wish I would have worn it this whole time, right? It was annoying to me to wear that full shield at first, and then I got hit in the face, and I'm like, okay, yeah, let's move on. And the other kind of thing I'll say on this comment, yeah, I mean, I'm sure players are just used to how camp used to be, but I mean, the NFL, and rightfully so, gets a lot of heat for not protecting its players, and after retirement, are they taking care of medical needs and I mean, stuff like that. This is like a huge step not a huge step. It's a very doable step by players to help, to reduce brain injuries. So I think if it helps one player, over the next 10 years, it's worth it. So I kind of roll my eyes at some of the guys who are like, oh, I don't need that, or oh, it looks funny, or oh, it feels funny. As far as I know, they're not wearing these in games, are they?
No, but I mean, my counter argument would be most of these injuries happen during games. I think most head injuries. I mean, I think during practice, especially against your own team, you're not typically going head to head or colliding as fast as you would be in a game situation. But yeah, to your point, if it helps prevent some of these things from happening during practicing, then that's probably good. And
well, and you are probably right, but a counter on your counter is, I think, the research. And now we're just two guys talking about medical things, so we should really stop. But I think a lot of it is just the repetitive, over 10, 20 years of someone's career, daily, small, light, not even the big ones, but like the impacts that they're just making. And if you're eliminating 5 days of practice or reducing contact for 5 days of, your 7 days a week of contact, there's got to be some compounding benefit there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll agree with that. So obviously those are made to prevent injuries. Let's talk a little bit about the injuries we know about right now. So there are kind of a lot of them. I mean, obviously it's still training camp, and some of these could change at any point before the season starts. But David Bakhtiari, he's on the physically unable to perform list. Robert
This
Tonyan,
is its own episode at this point.
Seriously. He had
like that one player, that one injury, spanning now 3 seasons. As it's, I mean, how? Like, let's not roll over that one. I mean, just take a second. I mean, are you? Obviously, you're bummed. You want the guy to feel better, but like, what's going on? Like, what's going on there? Are you feeling? How are you feeling? If you were a gambling man putting up $100, do you put it on David starting week 1?
No, I would bet he's not going to start week 1. But you know, if he's able to come in month 2 and contribute, I think
you said the exact same thing. I bet a year ago.
I mean, I don't think anyone expected him to be back week 1 of last year, and I can't remember if we thought he was or not. I think we were maybe overly optimistic, but you know, he hurt himself in week 11, so over halfway through the season, and we know that the ACL injuries can be at least a year. So
he hurt himself in right before the NFC Championship game, didn't he? January 1st or something against Tampa Bay.
Is that right? I thought it was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm 99% sure, but it doesn't matter. I guess
no, you're right. You're right. I was thinking of Elton Jenkins. My apologies.
Well, I guess my thought was just, you know, it's just, and too bad we started with him because we have other players to get to. But I would just love to see him come back in the month of September or October. You know, if we're sitting here going, oh man, the Packers are getting hot and getting healthy. I mean, that's going to be the replay of last year. I really hope to see him out early when games don't matter as much.
Yeah, and I don't know that the Packers will ever admit to this or not, but like, did starting him or having him play last year in the playoffs, did that set him back, or did they're being very limited with the information that they share with us about him.
Yep.
I've heard they're cautiously optimistic probably a dozen times from Bakhtiari himself and Rodgers and Goody, but yeah, I don't know. If I were to bet on it, I would say he's not ready week 1, but who knows? We'll see.
Agreed.
Mean, at this point, I'm not going to worry too much about it because I think our O-line and our coaching staff does a really good job of getting those guys ready. So I think we have a pretty deep and versatile O-line. I think that's kind of been the development strategy the last couple of years, and maybe the last decade even, is just finding guys that can fit in anywhere, cross-train them, and see if they can go. But yeah.
Well, speaking of speaking of the O-line, tell me about Elton Jenkins then.
Yeah, so he's on the PUP list. He got hurt last year against the Vikings week 11. So that's what I was thinking of, and that was my mistake.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I mean, he again tore his ACL, and he is, like we said, that could be a year-long rehab process. So I wouldn't expect to see him for at least the first month or 2 of the season, but who knows?
Agreed. Twitter says he looks good. If that means anyone,
doesn't mean
anything to anyone.
Nope. Doesn't.
But Twitter thinks he looks good and quick, and according to Twitter, he should be good to go. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, just based on what we just saw with David, anything before week 9 would be, I would say, huge. But hopefully around mid to second half of the season, and he will be that guy kind of coming back as we need him in the kind of the meat of the season.
Yeah, I mean it sucks because these are both. I mean, David Bakhtiari, arguably the best left tackle in the game. I think 5-time All-Pro. Elton Jenkins is a Pro Bowl caliber player at multiple positions. He's been invaluable to this O-line the last couple of years. He's been unreal. So both of those guys being out again is just, it really sucks. But again, I've got confidence in the depth we have and in our coaching staff. So we'll, hopefully be able to kind of manage in the meantime. Let's talk a little bit about some weapons that are on that are on the injury list here. So Robert Tonyan on the PUP list. Not sure what to expect from him. Twitter said he looked good during minicamp.